Okay, welcome back. As you can see, we're doing Super Mario World. And I'm doing this on my Super Nintendo Mini. As you can see, I've already got one file where I found all the exits and secret exits. But we're not going to be beating it, we're just going to be doing either the end of Vanilla Dome or maybe even the end of the Butter Bridge area. It all just depends on how much time I'm spending and how many times I die or whatever. And I do want to talk about that very bizarre video that James Rolfe did for the Cinemassacre main channel where he was complaining about criticisms. But first I wanted to obviously talk a little bit about Super Mario World. Yeah, what can you say? Great game, a lot of fun. Anyone that had a Super Nintendo played this game at some point. Now, me personally, I prefer Super Mario Bros. 3 because I like the themed worlds a little bit better, and I also thought it had more interesting power-ups, like the frog suit, as you can guess from my channel avatar, and the Hammer Brothers suit. The Tanuki suit was a little weird, but in this game, Super Mario World, yeah, it's cool that Mario can get the cape and fly, but the raccoon tail was cool too. Either way, this is still a really great game, and a fun little story about this game. By the way, we're not going to be getting all the secrets, we're just going to get the Switch Palaces. We're not going to do Star Road or Top Secret Area or anything like that. But a fun story. So I got the Sega Genesis for, it was either in late 1991 or early 1992, I can't recall. And I liked it a lot. I had Shinobi 2 and, excuse me, the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. Absolutely loved those games. And, regularly rented Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2. And then I had a friend that got the Super Nintendo, and the best way I can illustrate the differences between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo is the Sega Genesis had games that were really fun to just pop in and play. Arcade-style games, whatever you want to call it. But games like, Columns, Altered Beast, you'd play it for 25 minutes, a half hour, and it was fun. What Super Nintendo did better was games that were more in-depth. Games that took a little bit longer to beat. Games like Super Metroid, A Link to the Past, Earthbound. Sega Genesis can't, they can't match those games. Both systems, there were no bad systems. Both systems did video games extremely well in the 16-bit era. It's all a matter of which ones you prefer. Now, so I had a friend that got Super Nintendo probably, I think, summer of 1992, maybe even a little earlier, spring of 1992. And he had a great game library over the next year. He had Super Mario World, Turtles in Time, Mickey's Magical Quest, Super Batter Up, Street Fighter 2, The World Warrior, not Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But, you know, as a kid that had the Genesis, it was kind of, you know, I liked my Genesis, but it was tough, you know, because I'd play those games and they were different and they were fun. Anyway, eventually I did break down and covet the Super Nintendo. So I had a sibling, a little older than me, and, you know, we saved up allowance money, birthday money, whatever, and did finally have enough to get a Super Nintendo, probably, I want to say it was late 1994, maybe even early 1995, probably late 1994, and what I had wanted was the Super Nintendo bundle that had, you know, 2 controllers in Super Mario World. Unfortunately, I think I had a baseball game. I didn't actually go out with my sibling to pick it up, but what we ended up getting was a bundle that only had 1 controller, and it came with A Link to the Past as the pack-in game instead of Super Mario World, and I remember being really disappointed. I hadn't played A Link to the Past at that point. I hadn't played any of the Zelda games. I didn't know anything about the Zelda games. You know, I really was kind of disappointed about it. And I remember I played A Link to the Past for about 5 minutes, didn't really understand what to do or where to go. And unfortunately, with those pack-in games, they didn't come with the manuals to, you know, give you kind of a rough idea of how to start playing, what to look for. I was new to the whole Legend of Zelda experience, so I didn't know what to do, and oops. So I ended up renting games for, I don't know, maybe the first couple of months. And then eventually, must have been spring break, or maybe in midsummer, I'm not sure. Didn't have any other games to play, and eventually said, okay, I'm gonna play A Link to the Past. And I think I spent the whole summer playing it. I absolutely fell in love with the game. It's become one of my favorite games since then. In fact, I went through some really tough financial times a few years ago. I used to have a really big, really nice retro game collection. I may have told this story in a different video, but I, about 10, 15 years ago, went through some really tough financial times, and I had to sell off ton of my retro games. You know, I found a buyer that was willing to pay a very generous amount for all of my best games. The one game I would not part with, there was a couple that I refused to part with, like Knights of the Round and King of Dragons. I knew that I'd never want to rebuy those because the price was just going to go up and up. But a lot of the games, you know, my Mega Man games, my Super Mario Brothers games, etc., Turtles in Time, Final Fight, had to sell all those. Have bought them all back recently, but the one game that I absolutely refused to sell was my copy of A Link to the Past, and to this day, it is still the only retro game in my collection that is part of my original library. So, it does have some sentimental value for me. Anyway, spent the whole world talking about Super Mario World, and oops. Yeah, you want to hear me rant about Cinemassacre Rant. I apologize if my channel is slowly becoming a reaction channel, you know, reacting to what's going on at Cinemassacre. But, you know, let's not kid ourselves. It was a really puzzling move that James made that rant video about his critics. And if you look at that video, it was most definitely aimed at his critics over on the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit, which has a lot of members. You know, and when I was playing Super Mario Kart the other day, and I talked about, you know, that he made that video, one thing I kind of sidestepped was, why did he make that video? You know, that's an important question to ask, because James has never done anything like that before. He's never made a video where he's addressed criticisms, and it's certainly odd that he made a video that was explicitly addressing the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit. So, I don't know. You know, the Mario Kart video, I talked about how, in general, I just thought it was not a good look for him, and I still maintain that he probably shouldn't have made that video. But I do think it's important to ask, why did he make it? Well, one point I've already made is that they've fallen in numbers, and I actually got one of the numbers incorrect. I said that the Pac-Man video only did 380 views in the first 24 hours. That was way off. I meant to say 380,000. I think it was 385,000, if I'm being perfectly fair. Okay, so we're gonna do the green switch palace here. Now there's been some cracks in the foundation regarding Cinemassacre. I mean, it's not just... Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh well. the other day, for example, there was a episode of Hack the Movies where Erin from, Mike Matei's girlfriend she has her own retro game channel called Erin Plays, and she does Twitch streams and things like that. And she said on Hack the Movies, they were making jokes, and she joked that Tony didn't ruin Cinemassacre, and they, really yucked it up, which tells me that there is some self-awareness that, in the inner circle, of Screenwave and Cinemassacre, they do believe, you can bet that if Erin made that joke, that Mike Matei has likewise, joked that Cinemassacre is ruined. Probably would explain why he's no longer with the channel. But also, there's really low views, and there was some issue going on with the official Cinemassacre subreddit where they had a Redditor by the name of Draco BTN Masher, and he was just going hog wild, banning any and every piece of negative criticism, and it got out of control. He has since resigned. It was really choking off the engagement on the official Cinemassacre fan subreddit. Meanwhile, the engagement on the Cinemassacre Truth is actually pretty high. They have a lot of members, they're growing, and the criticism is growing. So I've just kind of been going over in my head. I don't know why I'm so fascinated with the situation. Cinemassacre is a channel that like a lot of retro gamers, I used to love watching Cinemassacre. That was the first retro game channel, and I, of course, was a big fan of retro games, still a big fan of retro games, as you can see. And, back in 2007 or 2008 or whenever I first watched it, I was just in love with the idea that there was, this really entertaining comedy show about a guy who, raged at old retro games. And I think one point that's going to rub even the hardcore fans the wrong way that James made during his video was that there was a stubborn... This is something I talked about in my first Cinemassacre Rant video. There's a stubborn insistence on not improving the quality of the channel. It's just not an option. They stubbornly refuse to put forth any more effort into AVGN. James made it very clear that they need quote-unquote basic episodes. And I use the term basic only because that was the exact wording that James used. By basic, he means low quality, low effort, very easy to crank out. And unfortunately, that's a cop-out. The fans do not want basic episodes. It's part of the reason why fans have been driven away. I never know which ones I'm supposed to avoid. So what the fans want is very obvious. They want, or, you know, I'm not even going to say that he shouldn't do basic episodes. Basic episodes are okay every once in a while, but they've really relied on too many basic episodes lately, and it's just kind of flooding the channel. No, my takeaway is that I don't know. My takeaway is that James is not going to improve the quality of the episodes, that they're going to rely on the quote-unquote basic episodes. And like I said, that's part of the reason why the fans are getting turned off. You know, you cannot blame a handful, well, a growing handful of, you know, subredditors for the channel doing as badly as it is. It's doing badly because they've gotten far away from what made the channel good. So James has never addressed his critics head on like that, which tells me that he was instructed to do it. That, honestly, I think there must have been maybe a tense business meeting at, you know, with James and Screenwave, Big Ryan, where they told him, you know, your numbers are down and your criticism is up. Whether or not you agree with it is irrelevant. You're not even, you know, the Fairweather fans, but the actual hardcore fans are not compelled to tune in anymore. They're finding more ambitious content creators. And honestly, I think they are falling behind in the algorithm. You know, another point I mentioned in my Super Mario Kart video was that Screenwave is consumed with trying to feed their clients into the almighty YouTube algorithm. That's where they make their money. That's what they pride themselves on. And when the algorithm is leaving Cinemassacre behind, you know, a YouTube channel that used to do millions and millions of hits, you know, what were they doing at their peak? Maybe 30, 35 million views per month. Now they're doing 9. They're, without a doubt, they are falling far, far behind. I kind of chuckle to myself because I think maybe I think that maybe Ryan said, hey, this Rex Viper stuff, we've got to cut it because what's going on is, you know, yeah, we're devoting time and resources into that. And by doing that, we have to make, you know, AVGN episodes that are bad. You know, the quote-unquote basic episodes. We can't make basic episodes that bleed the flagship dry just so we can do a vanity project, just so we can devote time and resources to a vanity project. That's not going to work. We have to fix the flagship, do more quote unquote dynamic episodes and fewer basic episodes. And if I'm being completely honest, I think maybe sponsors are starting to get nervous. You know, I think I may have mentioned this already, but sponsors are not interested in paying big bucks to channels that are on the decline. You know, they want channels that are demonstrating growth and can get them, you know, that coveted. I always do that. That coveted 18 to 34 demographic that, you know, corporations and advertisers just love. No, sponsors very well maybe getting nervous, and I wouldn't blame them. You know, maybe the money is starting to dry up a little bit. I honestly, you know, if it was, it would be a long time coming, not just because of the decrease in quality of content, but there's some really non-ambitious things like the podcast that they're planning on doing. The podcast is a bad idea. It's not going to turn the channel around. The only thing that can turn the channel around is putting more effort into the flagship AVGN. I don't know why it's not considered a viable option, but you know, so goes the old saying in show business, you have to give the people what you want. One conversation I was having with a friend of mine, fellow channel, The Vintage Gamer, you know, I told him that show business is replete with entertainers that absolutely hated, you know, the role that stereotyped them, made them famous. You know, they wanted to branch out and do other stuff, and the fans weren't interested. They moved on, and the fame and the fortune never comes back. And if James and Cinemassacre and Screenwave, if they don't realize that the only way to keep the plane in the air is to fix the flagship. If they don't realize that, it's just going to sink on them. And I mean, they've already done so much damage. It really is kind of beyond repair at this point. I think of a quote. I think Hulk Hogan, you know, the pro wrestler Hulk Hogan, he was talking about how World Championship Wrestling, the old wrestling promotion from Ted Turner, how that failed. And he said something. Oops, I went the wrong way. He said something really profound that I always liked. He said that, you know, in the world of business, or maybe show business, you know, making mistakes is like flying a plane. You can make all kinds of little mistakes when you're in business or flying a plane, and that's fine. You can correct those. You can correct the small mistakes. However, if you make a big mistake with a plane or show business and you put it into a tailspin, it's impossible, or you put it into a nosedive, it's impossible to fix it. It's going to go down. And that's kind of where Cinemassacre is. They're putting it into a nosedive by not fixing the flagship, and now it's just about beyond repair. It seems like a very... I don't like to use the word desperate, but it's very much a panic move, maybe even damage control. Like I said, James has never addressed his criticisms like that, and that he was annoyed and clearly under instruction to do so. It's alarming. I also think it's never a good thing when you split your audience into two types of fans. Good fans and bad fans. I really believe James should have been more conciliatory, a bit more understanding of where the criticism was coming from. Is this the way to go? Yes. The reason why those criticisms exist is because fans want the channel to get back on track, and like I said, you watch, the last year's worth of content, they don't seem... did it again. They don't seem interested in getting it back on track. They seem interested in just cranking out low-quality, low-effort projects, doing this low-quality, low-effort podcast, the silly Rex Viper Vanity project, which no one is interested in. It's just not getting traction. Maybe I'm making too much of it, but I really do believe it is a question worth asking, just because it is so unusual to see that they felt the need to, address the criticisms of a Reddit. Like I said, it's never a good thing when you have to divide your audience into good fans and bad fans. Now, I don't think this is going to be... Don't get me wrong, it is something that I think James is going to regret doing. I think he probably already regrets having made that video. You know, it's not going to be as bad as like the Diablo Immortal fiasco. It's not quite that bad with, you know, Pat the NES Punk and his strange sidekick Ian acting really out of touch, making fun of the fans that went to BlizzCon that were upset about Diablo Immortal. I don't think it's quite that bad, but all the same, like I said, they've kind of split. First off, they've given oxygen to... They didn't go ahead and say, you know, this is for all the, you know, jerks on Reddit. But make no mistake, that was very clearly aimed at, you know, the critics on Reddit. I don't need it. Sounds to me like a damage control PR move. It's also just not a good look. I really wish James had been a little bit more understanding of why his fans are being so critical. And we are really just zipping along through this game, not having... I'm gonna jinx myself, but not having any problems whatsoever. I don't know why I'm still keeping this red shell. One speculation that's floated around the last year or two is that James has another job. He did, at the very least, confirm that, no, he doesn't have another job. Cinemassacre, Angry Video Game Nerd, that is his day job. let's see if we can get Magic Koopa to do us a favor. I knew that was gonna happen. I'm struggling. Okay. That was close. He did address the no time meme, which is kind of funny. But let's not kid ourselves. He does complain incessantly about not having any time. So, I don't know. There's really no defense for that. You know, he might have said, you know, like, I get it, I say it a lot, I apologize, I'll try to stop making such a big deal about it. You know, something else that's going to rub a lot of fans the wrong way is that, you know, he spent so much time showing what his setup looked like. You know, that it looked kind of like he was giving himself an excuse to, you know, this is why I make low quality, low effort episodes. Why you only see one camera angle is because, you know, look at my setup. And again, that's something that really needs to be worked out with Screenwave. They're supposed to be helping him. Well, get in there and help him. You know, fix his setup for him. There's no shortage of content creators on YouTube that do more with a lot less. Do a lot more with a lot less. Alright, we haven't died yet. We're at Butterbridge, so why not? Let's go ahead and... There's only 2 levels in the castle. Or excuse me, Cheese Bridge, not Butterbridge. So let's go ahead and finish Ludwig von Koopa's castle. We'll get to the Forest of Illusion and wrap up there. Like I said, I think this is kind of a point of no return for the channel. I think James is going to regret having made this video. He may not have even wanted in the first place. You know, he really did seem generally annoyed. I don't know. I don't think that was the right way to go about with criticism. In the end, I think everyone just wants good content from the channel, and he's decided that due to his responsibilities and his personal choices, you know, we're getting basic episodes, and if we don't like it, we are of the a-hole-ish type. That was not the way to go about addressing your criticisms. Nothing over here? I guess not. Oh, there it is. Oh, I forgot about this. This part sucks. And it goes without saying that possibly the biggest piece of criticism will never be addressed, and that's people wondering what happened to Bootsy and Kyle. Both, great characters on the show. The Ikari Warriors episode is one of my absolute favorites. It was so funny. The chemistry he had with Kyle was really entertaining. Bootsy was a lot of fun to watch. Some of the best James and Mike Mondays episodes are the ones with Bootsy, and of course, his contributions on Board James, his invaluable contributions musically. Both Kyle and Bootsy made musical contributions to the channel, which are invaluable. So I don't know. I mean, I know things change, and it's been a long time. It's been, 15 years? He did make one point that was kind of amusing, was, there'd only be like 3 or 4 episodes a year if, he did the whole thing by himself. He said, "Is that what you want? Do you want me to suffer?" Is there a secret up here? I can't remember. Oh well, I can't waste too much time. And by the way, the response is yes, if it means getting 3 or 4 quality episodes a year instead of 24 terrible episodes a year, then yes, absolutely. Please do, reduce your input. But he's not going to do that. That's not the way it works. He mentioned that he does have brand deals and contractual obligations. So, I don't know, I've been going on and on for a while about, what the issues are. I think, whether you agree with any of it or not, I think the one thing that anyone can agree on is that James was instructed that he absolutely had to address his criticisms. For whatever reason. And if he's being instructed to address his criticisms, I have to believe on some level that the bottom line is being affected. That between the low numbers, maybe the sponsors, I think maybe the sponsors are starting to get a little nervous, and it's starting to affect the money flow. And a point I've made, maybe in a different video, is that when James, turned over the operation a few years ago to Screenwave, I believe they sold him on the idea that it was going to become a turnkey operation. He was essentially going to be able to keep making money without having to do as much. That Screenwave was going to handle all of the day-to-day operations, all of the logistics, all of the social media, all of that. And the money was going to keep rolling in. Unfortunately, the quality really suffered. The fans saw right through it. And now the money's starting to dry up. Now the fans are getting tired. And I think they're starting to get a little desperate at this point. They're starting to say, they're starting to say, like, listen, I think there's starting to be a little bit of tension that Ryan is starting to say, listen, we need you to do better. Because right now the fans are tuning out. Not just the handful of trolls, but, the fans by and large are finding better content. Because the content, James sounds bored. It's visually boring. It's boring to listen to. The podcast isn't exactly a sexy idea. I don't know. I think it's starting to crack a little bit. I think we're starting to see, I've been commenting on Reddit forums for, 6 months, maybe a year now, that the channel does seem to be in a very long, slow decline with their numbers. And it just seems like, the gig is up. James and Mike had a really good run. Mike has been out for a while now, and the fans are just not interested in Screenwave and their influence on the channel. They're not interested in the channel anymore. And if you don't address your fans' concerns and fix it, it's just going to get worse. Doubling down and splitting up the fans and saying good fans don't criticize, bad fans criticize, that's not the way to move the channel forward. You know what? Why don't we do the Blue Switch Palace? We're almost done. I think we can afford 5 more minutes. Oh, I forgot I don't have the cape. Oh, I can't use fireballs when I'm Balloon Mario. Fat Mario. Oh, and I went the wrong way. Alright, so never mind about the blue switch pals. We'll go ahead and wrap up right here. We've been going for almost an hour anyway. Thanks for listening to my Cinemassacre Rant, watching me goof off with Super Mario World for 55 minutes or so. I don't know. If you agree or disagree, leave it in the comments. I'll try to address them. I think the channel has reached its point of no return. This is not a good look, and I'm not sure how they repair the damage going forward. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm perfectly willing to admit that. So, anyway, thanks for swinging by, and I don't know. Maybe we'll come back to this game a little later. So, have a nice day.